Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Thoughtful Leaders, an initiative under Thoughts on Education by College Dunia. Thoughts on Education initiative is to enrich the user experience at collegedunia.com and try to bridge the long due gap between the vision of the top management and the students. Today, we have with us Dr. Baiju John, Director General at Kalinga University, Raipur. Welcome to the show, sir. I would like to begin by enlightening our audience about with a brief introduction of yours. Dr. Baiju John is the Director General at Kalinga University, Raipur. Sir completed his PhD in Management in 2011 from School of Management Studies and Research and then completed his fellow program in Management OT and HR from Indian Institute of Management, Raipur. Before joining Kalinga University, Sir held the position of Vice Chancellor at Maths University. In all, Sir has more than 25 years of work experience across various industries. Welcome to the show, sir. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. So, sir, the first question from my end for you is you have held key positions across various industries throughout your professional career. So, what are some of the things that you find unique to the education sector and how has your experience been with the university?
See, basically, the higher education sector has got its own uniqueness, as every sector is unique. Same is the case with the higher education sector also. But serving for this higher education sector since last 20 years at various capacities, from a teacher to a professor to a researcher to a scholar to a administrative person or as a vice chancellor or as a mentor, I came across a lot of uniqueness in this particular sector of higher education. Especially when I talk about one of the biggest thing, uniqueness is the demand. Because actually education is a sector that demand exists always. Because we all know nearly 250 million students are going to the school as of today. And definitely these all students or 75% of the students will turn up for their higher education. So one of the great uniqueness in this educational sector, specifically the higher education sector, I personally feel is the demand for the need of education, the demand for education. The second thing what I feel is the uniqueness when I talk about with my experience is that the investment is again a uniqueness because actually the government is ready to invest, private entities are ready to invest, and a lot of centers for excellence, especially like IITs, IIMs, AIMS, triple ITs, NITs. Every state has got this thing, the support from the government. At the same time, many of the state agencies, they came with the private regulatory university act, private university acts and all. And they have motivated the people to come into higher education by setting up universities and all. So this is the second uniqueness I feel as far as the support is concerned. The third is that we all know Government of India is keen in implementing the education policy. They are very keen in policy support to the state as well as from the center, enhancing the quality, enhancing skill-based education. As we all know, there are agencies like NAC, AICT. They're giving full support for enhancing the quality. We talk about the national education policy. Again, it's in the process of implementation. The entire country is implementing. All the higher institutions are implementing. There's a mandate from the University Grants Commission to implement a lot of agendas given. So there is always a policy support. This is the third uniqueness I personally felt. And the biggest uniqueness I felt when I compare foreign countries and our country, India, is that there is a advantage what we people have, because actually our students are quietly well versed with English as well as Hindi, and we can easily deliver this education to the students because both these we have the flexibility. They understand both these things. So this is one area where I find this is unique. So when I talk about this uniqueness of this educational sector, what I understand is one is the demand, other is the policy support, there is the support from the government in terms and private partnership or even private agencies for investment. And third is the advantage of the language. This is the core unique advantage or uniqueness I find in education sector. And as far as my experience being with the university is that if you are in a key positions, you can definitely define and implement policies which are very effective to the students as well as to the stakeholders. And there is also one responsibility what we all have is the societal development. You have to reach out to the society through your extension activity, because that is one of the areas where every leader of the institution must strive to reach out to the society.
Definitely.
So these are my thought in this particular context.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Being the Director General of Kalinga University, what is your philosophy of leadership and how would you describe your leadership style?
See, I basically, to be very frank, we all, because basically I'm a person from the organizational behavior background, we talk about leadership styles and all. To be very frank, it's on the lighter side again, but I personally felt one of my areas whenever I was into the positions of leadership, and normally as I am currently in the position of again in a top management level, I am there. I always look for achieving the objectives, because actually I always compare the mission of the organization, university, and then I strive for aligning the core values and ideas of the universities for achieving this goal. That is my style of this thing. But when you specifically ask this question, what is your leadership style? I always believed in a servant leadership and a transformational leadership, because servant leadership style is that I create a culture, I create trust through the consensus building and guiding, and I listen to people, because as a position of director general or a vice chancellor, you must have to have a ear for listening what exactly is required. So that is the way I look at things. I believe in a servant leadership concept and also a transformational, because I have to bring in change. So sometimes I have to be like that, then I transform. I believe in that philosophy of transformational leadership also. It's a mix of servant leadership and transformational leadership.
Okay, that's really great, sir. So moving on to the next question, the education system in India and other foreign countries are structured very differently. In your experience, what can an inbound student gain from studying here at Kalinga University?
See, now you have asked a very specific question, because what the student gain by joining Kalinga University, or a student when he comes or she comes to the campus. Actually, first thing is that wherever Kalinga stands for, basically we always strive for giving quality education. There is no doubt. Backed by, we believe in a holistic education, believe in a value-based education. So definitely the quality of education is one area. The other area what I personally felt, because I served for various organizations, especially in the area of education, I personally felt that Kalinga has got very great research opportunities. And because normally every university have, I don't say that many universities have these research facilities. But I personally felt that in Kalinga University, the access for the student to these research facilities are very well defined and easy. It's not cumbersome. The third thing is that the student is benefited by whenever the student is in campus, whenever a student joins Kalinga, the best assistance they get is in terms of their career building, the career benefits that talk about the placement activities, because we have got a very proactive placement cell. There's a mentoring that keeps on happening. We develop the students as per the need of the industry. So the benefit that student gets is the career benefit is one through the strong placements. Then we have got great scholarship schemes in place where the students get the maximum benefits of the scholarships. And we have got one of our best practices, what we talk about is the female student scholarships. So we have got a lot of initiatives, interventions for scholarships. So effective scholarship is again the benefit that the students get. And above all, whenever a student comes to joins Kalinga, we have got a very strong alumni network and the network between the students through various clubs, activities, functions, visits. So definitely there is a blend of alumni and the students that will definitely enhance the attitude or outlook of the students, because nearly 400 foreign national students are also in premises at Kalinga Raipur. So you get a chance to interact, know their culture, know their attitudes, their interactions, their involvement. The student at Kalinga have this benefit. I think in Central India, very few have these facilities of these foreign nationals in campus students. So
Yeah.
that is the main thing. But I personally feel that student, whenever he comes or she comes to the campus at Kalinga.
Okay. And so, like, you partially answered my next question, but I'll still put forward it to you. So, how does the curriculum of Kalinga University ensures the best practice of the industry?
See, basically now the debate is on related to industrial-driven curriculum or a society-driven curriculum, because actually the world is debating, not only in our country. When you look from the academic perspective or an academician's perspective, you have to strike a balance between an industrial-driven and a society-driven. So when you talk about Kalinga's when you talk about the curriculum at Kalinga, we strike a balance between both the industry driven and society driven, because actually in our board of studies itself, the nominations from the experts from the industry and academia is clearly earmarked for the board of studies. So they have to be there in the board of studies, so we know what all are the things required by the industry. The second is that the industry input is embedded into the curriculum to meet the emerging needs. And third is that we at Kalinga has got many, because I can't count it on my this thing exactly, I can give you a number, but we have got effective and implementable MOUs with various industries for internships, field visit, and even the teaching method involved at Kalinga is through live trainings and experiential learning and through case studies. So definitely we have got a mix, because we send students for their live internship or experiential learning to the industry. At the same time, we also teach through these workshops and classes through case studies and different modes of teaching. So the curriculum is definitely designed and developed first by listening to the stakeholders. The stakeholders comprise of the industry, parents, students, alumni, government, society. A lot of agencies are involved. So we have an inbuilt mechanism. So that is the way we design our syllabus, which is more or less focused towards the need of the industry as well as to the society, which will definitely in turn build a better country in times to come through the students.
Even I had the opportunity to interact with many of the current students from Kalinga University. So they told me about that even in the online mode, they have been having webinars and sessions on the weekends. So I feel that definitely leads up to them gaining some industry relevant skills and help them with the placements as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because actually, see, basically nobody has thought about this pandemic. Initially, because last 2 years we have seen there is a drastic change that has happened in giving this thing online classes, the technology, the interface, then the support. Even though we want to deliver the best things, but actually sometimes the bandwidth is not supporting in some remote villages or in some remote villages abroad, or in some problems are definitely are there related to infrastructure also. So it was a challenge, but definitely we tried our level best to deliver what is required so that we can keep sustaining the interest of the students in that particular subject in a practical way, in an experiential way. So that was the need of the hour. So we have given it continuously, we have a strategy in place. So how to disseminate the knowledge through these webinars, online methodology.
Okay. And what do you think should be the university's top priority over the next 10 years?
See, basically, this is my perception because actually, university, you also know you representing such a great organization. So you also know because you interact with the maximum number of academicians across the country and abroad. Uh,
Yes, sir.
Priority, as far as my thought process, I'm saying because university is not run by only a person. It has got its own governing council, academic council, board of studies. So it's a joint decision apart from our visitor, the honorable governor, then our chancellor. There are many agencies involved, then our regulatory commissions. But my thought process, it's my thought process, my perception, my understanding. It's me as speaking. So I'm making it very clear that Kalinga University, our priority definitely will be is one of the need of the hour whenever we interact with the students, stakeholders is that we must have or increase or enhance the understanding of different group and stakeholders interested in higher education because we must have a mechanism to reach out to the real stakeholders and know what exactly is the requirement. See, basically, what happens is that we must have a mechanism in place to listen to what different group of stakeholders. It can be alumni, so you must have detailed interactions with the alumni. At the same time, you must have detailed interaction with the government. You must have
Yeah.
detailed interaction with the industry. Like that, it must be. So one of the priorities that. The second is that making the technology interface the technology because of this pandemic has changed in a very big way. Smart
Definitely.
classrooms at one point of time we were talking about only the classrooms. Now
Yeah.
we don't have the more or less we don't have the concept of smart classrooms. In the times what exactly is going to happen nobody can predict. So we must focus more on technology. Then is that we must shift from the existing online courses to the MOOCs because MOOCs is again because actually UGC also says we can transfer certain credits through MOOCs. So definitely we have our studios in place. The recordings are already on for developing MOOCs. Our content writers, our professors are busy with developing new MOOCs. And the fourth thing, what I personally feel is a good mentoring scheme for the students. And above all, when you talk about the need, is that everybody wants to have a very clear-cut learning outcome. So we must talk about the learning outcome-based curriculum. So our focus must be learning outcome-based curriculum. And last but not the least, definitely the faculty development. The faculty has to be developed to meet the challenges because without making the faculties vibrant, we can't make the entire system vibrant. So these are my thought process. The university's top priority for the next 10 years. 10 years is a big time, but definitely. And any unforeseen things like this pandemic and all happens, we can't predict the future. So definitely, but we must be geared up on to meet these exigencies.
And as you mentioned that even faculty development is really very important. So I can think of one thing that it was a huge challenge for the faculty as well when we shifted from offline classes to online classes. But similar to any other occasion, our faculty did rose to the occasion, and the online classes are actually going on. So the education system has not stopped at any point.
Yeah. See, basically, the life goes on. The online systems are on, but actually, somewhere we have to judge the effectiveness also.
Yeah.
See, basically, that is a system where we have to. That's why I told in my previous answer also, I told we have to listen to the stakeholders. Exactly what is happening, what is the need, what is the problems, what is the benefit. Then again, we have to keep on changing. The system must be dynamic rather than stagnant. You have to immediately change. If the technology wants change, immediately you have to bring in the technology. But at the same time, there is a need of technology enhancement in the society also. Suppose a student sitting in a village, because he belongs to that particular native village, he went back during this lockdown. And in the village, that net this thing that the network has got some problems or the bandwidth there is not supporting. So then this entire effectiveness, although the child has an intention, the student has an intention to attend these classes and get the maximum, but unfortunately that technology there is not. So you have to strike a balance somewhere. You have to go for the repeat classes, you have to go for this as you are doing it now, recordings, then we have to play it.
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of things available on the digital content also, because everybody is putting it digitally, and we are also doing it. So we have to understand, because there are a lot of things, because it's just a beginning. We don't know how to. Everybody has to work hard. Everybody across the globe has to work hard how to reach out to the students sitting at home and make that particular environment a classroom environment. The involvement of the faculties have to be good. They have to be well versed. They have to be more researched. They have to be very focused, and they have to go for a time management concept also, because they have to finish that slot in 1.5 hours or an hour. They have to be very focused, because otherwise, if anything gets diluted, the entire, because we are not physically present, and we don't know how is the mentality of the student who is there in the other side on the laptop. So we have to gear up. We have to train. We have to untrain also what old things we have to retrain ourselves, relearn.
Yes, sir.
That change, at Levin's model, unfreezing, changing and refreezing, that change has to be happening. So you yourself have to get changed.
And so, would you like people to know something about the university that they might not know? Like something that's really unique about the university but has not been in the news or on the public domain?
See, basically, I will talk from one perspective only, because the universities and higher places of learning, higher education, it is focused for the students. So from the students' perspective only, I will speak in this particular, I will answer you. The first is the people have to come to the campus to feel the campus atmosphere. The campus atmosphere is so good and vibrant that once you come to this campus, then only you can really feel the campus, because actually it is created, it is managed, it is taken care in such a manner. The ambience is very perfect for teaching learning. At the same time, the other component is that the faculty members, they are very good, very trained, very professionally experienced faculty members we are having. Then the ratio, because actually we have to talk about the student-faculty ratio. We have got one of the best student-faculty ratio. So the personalized attention is given to the students. And last but not the least, we have got one of the best incubation centers. We have got one of the best central instrumentation facilities in this part of the country. So we have got dedicated incubation centers. We have got dedicated central instrumentation facilities with machines like SEM, XRD. All these things are in place. So students are exposed in this thing through this thing. So you have to come to the campus, but these are the things people must know about Kalinga University.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like, according to you, what are some of the biggest challenges you see both for higher education in general and for Kalinga University specifically?
See, basically, challenges do keep on coming, but one of the biggest challenge for everybody in the country is the pandemic. The second thing is that the challenge, what I personally feel, is that related to the research funding by the government, because being from the private, this thing we have to be, the government must be more flexible in funding us also, because we are also doing our part. So one of the biggest challenge what I personally see is this pandemic only, because every strata of the society is affected. It's not only if a student can't be enthusiastic because his parents have some problem, or his relative has some problem, or even his village has got some problem, his city has got some problem. So, because we are seeing what has happened to our country during this pandemic in the second wave specifically. So
Yes,
we have to understand the emotion. So this is one of the emotional management can be one of the challenge. The second thing is our funding of the projects.
Okay.
Rest, I
And
feel that challenges do exist.
yes, sir, definitely. Challenges, I guess, are a part of life, and
Yeah.
more the challenges, more is the learning as well.
But actually, at certain ages and certain positions, learning, you have to be facing the challenge rather than learning. It's on the lighter side, I'm saying to this.
And so, like, any suggestions that you would like to the current youth or the aspiring students?
See, since last 20 years, I'm continuously into teaching. I'm teaching students, I'm meeting students. 20 years before, the students I taught are almost settled. I have seen students coming, doing their graduation, post-graduation, many of them taking up jobs, some of them turning to be researchers and taking this profession again as academicians. And all in this last 20 years, what I personally felt is that every youth must be, first of all, emotionally strong. You must be emotionally strong. The second thing is that, as we all talk about, but we have to practice this concept of ethics. Ethics is a part of subject in all the curriculums at Kalinga University, because as I told, we strongly believe you have to be very ethical, and this component of ethics have been infused into the curriculum. It has been infused into the curriculum of nearly all the courses. So definitely you have to be ethical, and above all, you have to respect time. Because when I was young in schools, teachers used to say time flies. I still remember my class setup, but time really flies. I told you also, the student who I taught 20 years back, now is 40 years. So definitely, and I also turned old. So time flies, you have to respect time. So three things we have to be very focused for a youth is that you have to be emotionally strong, you have to be ethical, and you have to respect time. This is my thought process. And rest all, you have to be fit. Yes, stay away from all the, that is everybody knows. But this, you have to emotionally, you have to be very strong.
Definitely, sir. With all the competition that is being going on and the emotional stress that is on the students itself, like they have to cancel the original plan because of this pandemic that they had. They wanted to study abroad, they wanted to study in a particular state, but they are not able to travel. I guess emotional strength was what keeps us going on at that time.
Correct. Correct.
So, sir, yeah, last question from my end. What are some of the plans that the university is currently working on for international affairs or for its students?
We are strongly now, our focus is on MOOCs, developing MOOCs, mentoring and counseling of students. And the area what we are planning to take up is that students' progression monitoring. After 20 years also, we must know where our students are. Because no inbuilt mechanism, till now we have this thing. We have some mechanisms, we have some mechanism to know where our students are, but we must have a very strong mechanism. We are developing a strong mechanism that after 20 years also, the way the student has progressed in life must be visible on our screen. So we are working towards this. These are the three strong areas what we will be focusing on in the times to come.
And like as you mentioned in previous answers as well, that listening to all the stakeholders is the key. And I feel that an alum of the university is a very important stakeholder. So, like,
yes, alumni is definitely, because they carry two things. One is the culture they learn from the campus, and what the culture they are learning in the society. So they immediately can compare, and they can, and they are open to us because they are our students. They were with us for 4 years or 3 years or 2 years, or even for 5 years for the research purpose, and also so they know us better, so they can be open. They can be open, more open.
Yeah.
So they can be more transparent. So we can definitely utilize their feelings for bringing change in all the areas of education in our setup.
Definitely. So yeah, this was all from my end. And if I missed any point that you would like to highlight through this interview, please feel free.
See, basically, we all spoke about the pandemic, spoke about the online classes, we talk about the culture and all. One thing I just wanted to highlight above all these things, our university is located in the state of Chhattisgarh, near to the capital, new capital of Raipur. But one of the strong focus area, what Kalinga believes, is that extension activity. Our extension activities are so effective that we have adopted 5 villages. We have reached to the masses of all these 5 villages. The 5 villages are so much interactive with us. We have got a legal aid cell for them. We have got counselings for them. We have taken up adult digital literacy for them. We always organize these health camps for them. We talk about hygiene. We got regular medical checkups. So now, not only for the adopted villages, our university focuses in developing this, reaching out to the society at large through this extension program. We have not restricted ourselves only to these 5 villages. This thing, we have reached to the numerous villages across Chhattisgarh in this connection. So that is one of the area we are focusing, because we know once the student knows the rural part of our country, whenever they become administrators and leaders, definitely they can think about the deprived or about the masses who are in the rural areas. So that is one great thing. Definitely, when you talk about extension activity, we have got massive plantation drives and river water protection, water usage, and all these things have been implemented in campus also. We have got green initiatives. Our campus is fully green initiative. It runs on solar. It has got sewerage treatment plants. It has been the water out of that sewerage treatment plant is used for this horticulture. Every system is in place. So we have training the masses also. We are reaching out to the masses also to educate them the need of the hour, that we have to save water, we have to save trees, like that. So one of the key focus area apart from academics, Kalinga focuses is the extension activity. And I'm surely glad to share with you, we have won certain national accolades also for this, and at the same time, definitely our initiatives are bearing results. So I'm proud to share this particular news about or message about this extension activities at Kalinga.
That's really great. So, like, I guess the viewers will definitely love to see and explore more about those initiatives that Kalinga has taken in the area.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you so much, sir. This was certainly an insightful session.
Thank you very much. It was really pleasant talking to and interacting with you. Thank you very much.
So everyone, this was Dr. Baiju John, Director General at Kalinga University, Kharagpur, on the episode of Thoughtful Leaders, an initiative under Thoughts on Education by College Student. Thank you very much for giving us your time to speak to us amidst this your busy schedule. We look forward to interacting with you again. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks.